Hello, dears, this is the StorySculpt channel, and you are listening to the story The Awakening. This story is written by Mumtaz Shirin and translated by Samina Rahman. From the book KAHANI, Short Stories, by Pakistani Women, edited by Aamer Hussein. Apa, Gulna Apa. Look, Miss Fen, Javed was tugging at my sari with his tiny hands. Ari, get off. Apa, all the time. Look, how you're ruining my fresh white sari with these grubby, filthy hands. Were you playing with mud, you ill-mannered wretch? I angrily slapped his hand away. He screwed up his face. No, Apa. Miss Fence is on our road, he sobbed. Please call her. Miss Fence is so nice. She gave me cake and cocoa, nice cocoa. Please call her, Apa. Sweet Apa. Ari. I was startled. Miss Fence, here? I glanced at the window. Yes, it really was Miss Fence in the distance, walking this way, talking to some woman. So, should I call her? I thought. I took a quick look round the room. Books scattered everywhere, and the furniture. One chair lay in the corner with its face to the wall and one plum in the middle of the room, as if preening itself on its unpolished surface. And the sofa. Hun! The filthy stuffing spilt out of a gaping hole. Tablecloth. Javed had made generous use of ink in drawing patterns on it. My God, is anything in order? Uff! What ill-mannered fool has scattered the papers on the floor? Does anyone else have such mischievous children? And this inch-thick layer of dust. Is Karaman dead? The unfortunate wretch can't even be bothered to sweep the rooms early in the morning. Karaman, oh Karaman. Bring the duster. Have you gathered this dust to sell? Coming, BB. Just coming. Let me take the bread off the griddle, it'll burn. To hell with her and her bread. She's such a miserable one, always stuck in the oven. Why was I so agitated, I asked myself, beginning to feel ashamed of my behavior. The poor woman was alone and all the housework was on her head. We weren't so well off that we could afford 10 servants. Even one was a blessing. I quickly changed the tablecloth and dragging the chairs to their place began gathering the papers scattered all over the floor. While gathering the papers I glanced out of the window. Miss Fence had stopped. How close she was. Zakia. Zubaydah. I gave a full-throated shout. No answer. I went to the door, looked out and felt a murderous rage on seeing both present in the courtyard. Zakia was standing holding Javed while Zubaydah had climbed onto the gate and was craning her neck to catch a glimpse of Miss Fence. Zakia, have you any intention of helping? Aren't you ashamed of yourself standing out there like this? Why are you getting angry, Apa? It's not as if I'm always at the gate. Just today, like that, she laughed as she caught sight of my peeved expression. Aha! Apa, today your mercury is soaring at 100 degrees. See if I don't say something to bring down my Apa's temperature. Shall I tell you something really interesting? She pulled a face and clapped. Shall I, Apa? Aho. Miss Fence is passing this way. I know all that. Come here and help me clean up the room. You only know how to chatter. I was offhand with her. So, Apa, are you going to call Miss Fence? She asked, jumping up and down with joy. Zubaydah was also dancing. How is it that these children are still so fond of Miss Fence? I snapped at Zakia, who was staring at the door again. The papers were still scattered all over the room. Hun! I'm not going to call her, considering the state of the house. I irritably threw the papers I had gathered on the floor. What are you saying, Apa? Zakia was looking at me in surprise. I ignored her and called out to Zubaydah, Zubaydah. Javaid. Go. In. Why, Aamer? Zubaydah asked as she entered. Come here. If Miss Fent sees you, she'll find out that this is our house and she's bound to want to see me. I dragged Javaid in as well. That'll be wonderful. Why shouldn't she come, Aamer? Seen the condition of your beautiful home? We'll settle everything. Please let her come, Aamer, they both pleaded. Enthusiastically. I've told you I'm not going to call her. Oh, Aamer. It's been so long since we've had a chance to see Miss Fent. Hasn't it been 2 or 3 months since you left college? After so long, purely by chance she's in our city and she's passing by our house and you're not going to call her in? Aamer, you're being... Zakia stopped in the midst of her harangue and laughed, giving me a mischievous look. Right. Now I know, ever since Parvai's Bahia. Ari, quiet. You've started making such fancy speeches. I pinched her hard. You're a pretender, Aamer. See how coy you got at the mention of Parvai's name. I stood there shy, blushing, shrinking inside, lost, as if the name had cast a spell on me. What a beautiful name. What a wonderful name. Parvai's. I awoke from my reverie to find the portals of the doors wide open, the curtain flapping in the wind and Miss Fent standing bang opposite our house, fixing me with her eyes. As I caught her gaze, she smiled and began moving towards it. Oh. God. What is to be done now? I shook Zakia. You see to everything. Look, she's coming here. I quickly ran from there, only stopping to breathe once I was in my room. A little later when I peeped out, I saw Miss Fent sitting in the room adjacent to the veranda and Zakia standing next to her carrying an attractive dish of bananas and oranges. Call Gulnar, Miss Fent was saying. Suddenly she saw me peeping and smiled and called out, Gulnar. I retreated shyly behind the door. What must she have made of my coy behavior? Just that I still had the same feelings for her. Hun. How was she to know that I now, but she must be harboring the same wrong impression. I had always been shy in front of her, running away when she appeared. When she looked at me I would hide my face in both hands although I wanted had opened up with her. Even then, when we ran into each other unexpectedly you should have seen my confusion. What days those were! It was usual for me to wait hours for her in the veranda after the bell had rung. The week when we had no classes with her was the most miserable week of all. Yes, I doted on her. I loved her to distraction. How the girls would tease me, Gulnar, we don't know why you dote on Miss Fent, she's no beauty. In fact, it wouldn't be far wrong to call her ugly. Those witches, if only I could have scratched their faces. How would they know how beautiful she looked to me? I was annoyed with Zaina, although she was my dearest friend. I remember wearing a black sari that day and had borrowed a black bindia from Puvo to put on. Zaina and I were strolling in the hostel compound when Indira had appeared from somewhere. Aha! You're looking devilishly beautiful today, Gulnar. Like Miss Fent. I had blurted out inadvertently. Hun, Miss Fent. Zaina had said sarcastically. Miss Fent. She'd have to die and be reborn thrice over to acquire your beauty. I had been so angry with her. Annoyed with me, Gull. All right, she's 5 times more beautiful than you. Happy now? She had gone into peals of laughter and Indira had smiled as well. I felt like killing Zaina. After all, who was she to insult Miss Fent? If a single word was said against her, I was prepared to fight with the entire college. I was not alone. Many girls would have supported me as so many were in love with her. Zaina was different, she would place no obstacles in my path but would be happy to see Miss Fence indulge me. What a selfless girl she was! In contrast, there was that Lakshmi. She was awfully, terribly jealous of me. She made every effort to turn Miss Fence's attention away, from me to her. All those beautiful saris she'd brought and her put-on manner and specially designed pearl jewelry. She'd even had her hair curled with an electrical appliance. Hun! What was the point of all the effort since she was not beautiful anyway? Miss Fence would only have to look at me for her to be consumed with jealousy. Despite reading hundreds of books on Miss Fence's special subject, could she write better than me? Had she ever scored more marks than me? When nothing worked, her envy would take over, and she would always be on the lookout for an opportunity to make a hurtful remark. How she would fret when she heard people call me beautiful. Her response would be, "Hun, can anyone be called beautiful who doesn't have a pink and white complexion? Height and a slim body are the prerequisites of beauty." Not that she was fair, but she was tall and slender, although there was no beauty in her thin body. She looked as if a long piece of wood had been whittled bare. There were no pleasing contours to her shape. No suppleness and no style. A flat, lifeless piece of wood. I really wanted to shut her up. Hun! For beauty, charming features are far more important than a fair complexion, and a full, rounded body is as beautiful as a delicate one. In fact, it is far more attractive. But I would smile and maintain my silence. I didn't want her to feel that she had succeeded in needling me. Sometimes she would show me a fair-complexioned girl and say, "Look, Gulnar, how beautiful that girl is." And the girl she was pointing out would be so ugly, so repulsive-looking that I would burst out laughing. Squashed nose, spreading nostrils, very thick lips, clumsy body, but yes, she would have a fair coloring. I would say, "Lakshmi, I salute your sense of beauty." When this would not work, she'd descend straight to the personal level, jeering and calling me black although my complexion is clearly wheatish. And then there was Zeenat, who just would not leave Miss Fence alone. How artlessly she would complain, "Gulnar, Miss Fence likes you the best. And what about that enormously fat girl, more of a woman than a girl?" She lived and breathed for Miss Fence, and what peculiar ways she had of demonstrating her love, making even Miss Fence laugh out aloud. And Nalini. Gulnar Bibi. What is it, Kahraman? Begum has asked me to make French toast and samosas. You know that some Miss Sahiba has come visiting. I have so much work. Daughter, can you cut these pieces of bread? My sweet child, I'll always serve you faithfully. I opened the door and peeped cautiously to see if Miss Fence was looking this way. Amy was sitting near her and they were busy talking. I tiptoed quickly into the kitchen and, cleaning the knife thoroughly, sat down to slice the bread. Kahraman put the cooked mince on the stove, added some salt, pepper and onions and began to brown it. So French toast is being made, is it? It was such a favorite of Miss Fence's. How many times had I made it with my own hands and sent it to her in the days she had been a professor in a local college, and how I had wept when she had been transferred. She had talked to me and tried to console me, but I had not been able to stop my tears. After weeping my fill, I had persuaded Abba to send me to the same place where Miss Fence was working and had met up with her. 2 years passed in a flash. I had to appear for the final college exam and then be parted from Miss Fence forever. I couldn't bear the thought of that. How I wished that the college had offered an MA course so I could have spent another 2 years with her. I had even toyed with the idea of failing that year. For a girl who had always come top in her class, to fail was particularly shameful, but that never bothered me. The professors had such high hopes of me. I would win many medals and prizes at the convocation. To come first among the girls was usual for me, and there would be special medals for that, but I would also head the state list in sociology and English. The boys would be thunderstruck and the name of the college would be written in letters of gold, but now I didn't care if I dashed their hopes. The final day of the examination arrived and I went to meet Miss Fence for the last time. When I returned to the hostel after saying goodbye, I went straight to my room, threw myself on the bed and, hiding my face in the pillows, wept bitterly. The flood of tears made my eyes red and the bed cover damp. Zaina, when she came, embraced me and began consoling me. The more she comforted me, the more bitterly I wept. That night Zaina sat with me for a long time, explaining things to me so that my stinging eyes began to close under the pressure of sleep. What a loving person Zaina had been. Finished cutting the pieces, daughter? Hand them over so I can fry them in ghee, and, dear child, just fill the pancakes with mince and make the samosas. Begum has asked for them quickly. What can I do, daughter? You can see how old I've grown. Can't do that much with my hands, or would I have asked you to work? Heaven forgive me. May this old mouth become infested with worms for ever uttering such words. Such delicate hands are fit only for holding a pen. How can I, a mere maidservant, desire to see them perform menial tasks? May God blind me before I wish that for you. Old Karaman started flattering me. I filled the pancakes with mince and started making the samosas without replying. How Miss Fence had loved me, calling me to her home many times and insisting that I accompany her on her walks. How she had begged that day, just come once, Gulnar. I'll take you for a drive in my car. I'll take you to such and such a garden. My hurt pride had made me spurn her offers. And then how generously she would mark me. 80 or 85%. Seeing this, the girls would be very envious. They would say, well, of course, you're her favorite, aren't you? How could we get such marks? When she spoke my name, she would savor it in her mouth like a delicious sweetmeat, and when she smiled at me, how loving that smile was. I would instantly want to call her Angelina instead of Miss Fence, but I had never dared to do that. Though I hesitated to open my mouth before her, I would write whatever came to my mind in my letters. I wrote, Queen of my heart, my darling, Queen of beauty, heavenly Angelina. Strange romantic letters I would write. And she would never be annoyed. And then one day Lalita and I were sitting with her on the back seat of the car. In conversation Lalita had asked, Miss Fence, do you know how to ride? No, she had replied, but I've wanted to learn for a long time and that's why I'm getting a riding kit stitched, and then turning to me, a coat and trousers, Gulnar. She had said it in such a way that I had dissolved in shame. I'll look just like a man in it, won't I? I sat with my face hidden in both my hands. Yes, there was a glimpse of the man in her. Very tall, a broad, strong chest, and her looks would make me blush. Even if she was standing in a crowd, talking to other girls, her eyes would be fixed on me, and how good she would look in a tangerine sari. The reflection of the sari would cast a golden glow on her face and there would be a faint blush on her cheeks, tinged with blue, and from a distance her pockmarks would not be visible either. I put the plate of samosas in front of Karaman, who started to fry them. I was finally free of all the chores. Sitting in front of the stove for so long had made me feel hot, so I washed my hands and face with cold water, wiped them with the sari ends and turned my eyes towards the room where Miss Fence was sitting. The same magical smile that had cast a spell over me. Now I was ready to meet her, till my eye casually fell on my sari. It had dirty patches and Javade's paw marks were clearly visible. How can I go out in this sari? I saw Zubaydah come out. Zubaydah! I called. She was running along, not paying any attention. Zubaydah, come here. Hun, I won't come. I want to go to Miss Fence. My sweet little one. Listen to Apa. I'll give my little one a chocolate. What is it, Apa? Her eyes lit up at the prospect of chocolate. Sweet little one, fetch me a sari from the cupboard. See how grubby this one is. How can I wear this and go out to Miss Fence? Here, take the keys to the cupboard. All right, Aamer. Go quickly, Miss Fence keeps asking for you. She still cared for me. Perhaps. 2 months ago I had sent her a letter through another girl, who had reported her joy at receiving it. Had she not been delighted the day I had arrived, without prior warning, at the college where she then worked? I could see her from my hiding place, but she couldn't see me, and I had sent a girl to inform her that I was seeking admission to that college. In a highly emotional state she had repeated my name several times. Gulnar. 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 Is that true? The girl had assured her it was. Where is she? Tell me. The girl began telling her where. I was, but without paying any attention to her she had set out to find me. Gulnar. Where are you? I had enjoyed witnessing her impatience. Finally everything is prepared. Let me rest this old body for a while. Old wretch. Always muttering to herself. I was irritated. God bless you, Gulnar Bibi. What a help you have been to this old woman. Kahraman spread a piece of jute right there in the kitchen and lay down. Oh, there you are, daughter. My Bibi will have a long life. I was just thinking of you, my child. You are in my prayers all the time. I'm not lying. I've worked in many places, but no, sir, I've never seen such a girl. In other homes even young lads would tell me off, but my Bibi has never said a harsh word to me. Now my days of work are over, which is why I had even left your home. I tell you truthfully, daughter, I only came at the news of your wedding. I've always cherished the desire to see you as a bride with my own eyes. God bless you with a wonderful groom. Could there be a groom more wonderful than Parvarize? A gentle smile appeared on my lips. I hastily turned my face in case Kahraman noticed. Then, all at once, my mind was emptied of all thoughts except Parvarize. Parvarize. And I drifted into this bright, beautiful world. Exceedingly beautiful. Far more than college and the world of Miss Fence. There was a time when I had wondered whether, if I were to get married, I would be able to love my husband at all. Once Zaina, who knew about palmistry, had looked at my hand and said, "Your husband will love you enormously." And I had felt such pity for my would-be husband, thinking that I would not be able to respond to his love. And now? Now see how madly I care for my Parvarize. Aamer, here's the sari. I took the sari from Zubaydah, put it on the table and began combing my hair. How was I able to forget Miss Fence? She had cared for me a great deal. Cares a great deal. Had she ever expressed it verbally? When I was with her she was deathly afraid. Gulnar, what must the girls be saying? Gulnar, if the principal sees us, what then? If the girls see us, let them. Had we committed a crime to be so fearful? Oh, the faint-heartedness. And when she brought the corrected copies to class she would be brimming with fulsome praise for my ideas and point of view, but would never tell the girls that they were mine. Returning the answer sheets she would never even take my name, but she would give me the highest marks. Hun, was this any way to behave? I would come first in every paper, but no teacher would give me such high marks as Miss Fence, who would give up to 80 or 85%. So what if she gave me high marks? I would have been so happy if she had praised me in class in front of all the girls and said, "See how many marks Gulnar has got." Instead of, "Such and such a roll number has got so many marks, such and such a roll number has done this, done that, done the other, such and such a roll number, such and such a roll number," I had been reduced to such and such a roll number. Even Miss Jones with her MA from Oxford would spend half an hour at a time praising my essays, although her standard of assessment was very high, and Mrs. Social Sarojini had said, "Heaven be praised. Gulnar has outdone herself this time." What wonderful answers! I read and reread this paper countless times. She never had problems praising me in front of the teachers and other girls, nor did Miss Kamlabai. Apart from the lady teachers, the male professors would also praise my intelligence and capability. The only exception was Miss Fence, who would never use a single word of praise. Perhaps she thought it below her dignity. Hun! And how I wanted her to appreciate my beauty. Not all the time, but sometimes impulsively, I would have liked a Gulnar. How beautiful you are! At least once she could have let out a "Today you're looking very beautiful, Gulnar," or "This sari really suits you." How I would strive on the days we had a class with her to wear the saris that suited me, style my hair with care and wear colorful bangles. I was specially proud of my wrists and fingers and would place my hands on the table in such a way that Miss Fence would have a perfect view of the bangles fitting snugly on my wrists as well as of my fingers. It was quite evident that she considered me beautiful, otherwise she would not have stared so. And every time I felt that I was looking particularly good, I could see she was paying me special attention. Her eyes would be fixed on me. So be it. Did she think I was made of stone or was a lifeless painting only to receive silent admiration? After all, I was a human being. A young 17-year-old girl, romantic and emotional. Would her precious hoard of praise have been depleted if she had said something aloud? Granted, she was a professor, but Mrs. Social was a professor as well. Did she not praise my looks? The day I was to take part in a play which portrayed Queen Nur Jahan's love of dance and music, how Mrs. Social had admired me while doing the makeup. Gulnar, you are the most appropriate person to play Nur Jahan. How well you write. Mr. Social sings your praises. He has also been your teacher, hasn't he? After having applied powder, lipstick, rouge, she said, "Now lift your eyes. Let me make them up as well," and when I did, heavens! What beautiful eyes! How I wished that instead of Mrs. Social it had been Miss Fence who spoke those words. Why had I never cared for Mrs. Social? What was so special about Miss Fence? Zaina never tired of praising my eyes. And Lalita. She even wrote verses in praise of them. Zini also used to say, "Gulnar, you must not wear glasses, they hide your beautiful eyes." All of them would shower me with admiration. I took special care of my eyes so that Miss Fence might look into them, and in her class I would take my glasses off, although I had quite a problem making out what was written on the board. Hun! Did it ever have any effect on the insensible one? But Parvai's discerning eyes will, at first glance, respond to the beauty in mine. They will lift of their own accord. Your eyes! Your gazelle eyes! How black! How intoxicating! In college I only participated in plays so that Miss Fence should notice me. St. Joan had been selected as the college play and I was to play Joan. I was so elaborately attired that even I was quite taken aback at my own image in the mirror and broke out laughing, thinking, would Joan, a village girl and a prisoner in court, have been all dressed up? But here in films and plays the paramount consideration is that the girl who plays the heroine must be lovely to look at and wear beautiful costumes. It was not the fault of Mrs. Social and Miss Jones who had made me up for the part. Miss Jones had made me put on her khaki riding habit, and my long hair had been pinned up and left loose on the shoulders. It had not been combed but was in artful disarray on the brow and forehead. The fault had been Vidi's. She had played the part of the Duke of York. She had been applying lipstick when it was time for the curtain to go up. Seizing my hand as I went by, she had pulled me to her. "Gulnar. What's this? You're the heroine. No rouge, no lipstick." She quickly put some lipstick on my lips and rubbed some rouge on my cheeks. As I glanced at the mirror in passing, I froze. How good even my dry and disheveled hair looked. I was certain Miss Fence would praise me today. In fact, she would have no option but to do so. At the end of the play, Mrs. Soshil, Miss Jones, and Mrs. Daniels came running up on the stage and clasped my hand warmly, congratulating me on acquitting myself well in a difficult role. Everyone was electrified by my performance. All this praise, but what about Miss Fence? She hadn't even sat in the audience to see the play but had stood backstage directing the actors. I had begged her to sit in the audience for the performance, gripping her shoulders and looking at her beseechingly. If I had been in her place, I would have melted. Even a stone would have more feeling. Gulnar. I have taken some responsibilities upon myself which I must fulfill. Your hallowed responsibilities. Well, at least she had viewed it from the wings. That night I had been delayed returning to the hostel. Girls had crowded round me at every step. Gulnar. You did brilliantly. How can one praise your performance? How beautiful you looked on stage, Gulnar. Rescuing myself from the girls, I arrived exhausted at the hostel. Zaina was outside waiting for me. She ran and embraced me. My dear Gulnar. You should have your hair cut and make yourself up the way you did for the play. You looked like a fairy tonight, but your makeup was not appropriate for Joan, was it? When the Inquisitor said, Joan, you look very pale today, your cheeks were blushing like dawn. Both of us burst into laughter. Arm in arm we ran into the dining room. All the girls had sat down to their meal. They showered me with compliments as I entered. I went to bed delighted that night but couldn't get to sleep. Hun! What did I care for everyone's praise? Tomorrow I will meet my Miss Fence. My Angelina. And she will praise me. The next morning I went to see her with heightened hopes, such expectations. And what did I receive from my Angelina? A deadpan face and anemic conversation. Zaina was right when she said, Gulnar, a romantic girl like you and the insensible and frigid Miss Fence, you don't match. You are fire and she is ice. She was truly devoid of emotion. A feelingless corpse. A stone statue. A lump of ice. How could she be compared to Parvise? Every vein in my Parvise's body courses with life. He is electric. Even in the photograph he looks so romantic. I also managed to steal a glance at him the day that Abba had invited him to dinner to give him his engagement present. Zaina was over and Jabin as well. Dulha Bai is here, Zubaydah had announced, and how my heart had raced. Zaina and Jabin had run to the window and dragged me along. Get up, Gulnar. Have a look at your Dulha as well. First I hesitated, but I was longing to catch a glimpse of him. What will Ami say? Oh, come on. Get up. Don't lose this golden opportunity. Zaina succeeded in dragging me over to the window. How shyly he stood in front of Abba. When he entered the hall I tried to peep through the keyhole, but the wretched keyholes were too small. We finally came up with a plan. Jabin turned out the light in our room so that no one would be able to see inside, and Zaina silently slid the bolt and opened the door a fraction. Then of course Jabin and Zaina rushed forward. I don't know why I held back. What a handsome youth, Gul. Zaina embraced me emotionally. I lowered my eyes shyly. My Gul. What a wonderful couple you make, she said, tilting my face up, love dripping from her eyes. She resumed her peeping. What a handsome figure and such beautiful eyes. Come here, Gul. Afraid of Ami indeed. Zaina started dragging me again. Have you seen your Parvise's eyes? A true answer to your own. Yes, I saw everything. The beautiful face. The laughing lips. The beautiful eyes brimming with life and impulsiveness. Ari, he looks very romantic, girl. I bet he'll go mad over you. I'll tell you from now, girl, he'll spoil you rotten, wear you like a necklace round his neck. I was burning with desire. I have fallen into his arms. Crazy. Mad woman, dying over Miss Fence. What hopes you had of that stony, emotionless woman? The same coldness and the same dull eyes in happiness and sorrow, anger or impatience. Look at Parvari's, what an expressive face he has. As if rays of light are bursting forth, yes, he did appear the embodiment of impulsiveness. His eyes were darting around. Why? Perhaps he is seeking me out. I wanted to break down the doors. Forgetting everyone's presence, I wanted to go and stand before him. What if I had been standing behind a curtain and the curtain had shifted for a moment and I had smiled pertly at him and then shyly lowered my eyes and left him breathless? I had been looking so charming in the blue georgette sari with the golden border. Why should I go out in this sari? I'll wear the georgette sari brought by my Parvaris. I pulled off the sari I had just put on and called out to Zakia, who was going out with a dish of samosas. Zakia, please get me my blue sari. The georgette one. All right, I'll get it, but come quickly. Ami was saying she's not going to sit down with Miss Fence at the meal. It would be better if you took her place. I looked carelessly at the room. Miss Fence was sitting, hands clasped. Looking up. Emotionless, dull eyes. Extremely thin, pale lips, sallow, pockmarked complexion. Suddenly her marks appeared to be increasing, becoming deeper and spreading all over. Her face was becoming repulsive. I quickly shook my head to rid it of the picture etched on it. It was replaced by another burgeoning image. Of Parvari's. Those beautiful blue eyes, large, almond-shaped, intoxicating, long thick lashes. That face, the broad, beautiful forehead. And the lips. How beautifully they were chiseled. Luscious, full and with a slight uptilt as if they were made for smiling. That dusky complexion. Beautiful Shyam. My Shyam and I his Radha. I picked up Parvaris's picture from the table and kissed it in a fever of impatience. This sari? Alarmed, I put down the picture. Zakia was standing with the sari. Yes, that one. Apa, come quickly. The samosas are growing cold and here you are. Changing sari after sari. How come you're so unconcerned while there is Miss Fence going on and on about Gulnar? I'm coming. I picked up the picture again and forgetting everything, lost myself in its beauty. What a good-natured face. Oh, those lips. My eyes would first turn to the lips. These lips, what a thought. I melted with shame. I put down the picture and began putting on the sari. What charm there was in his personality, what manliness. Compact body. Good height. Broad chest. Long, strong arms. In those arms. These thoughts again. There was electricity pounding through my veins, my heartbeat had increased. And the blood, it was boiling, spreading warmth. Fire. Oh, the crowding emotions, this storm. I fell on my bed and hid my face in the pillows. This, how delicious it was. Gulnar, what has come over you? Ami was standing there, her face burning with anger. Miss Fence has been waiting for you for such a long time. Don't you have any consideration for an older person, and then she is your teacher as well? Ami went out muttering to herself. She's waiting for you. She's calling you. She's going on and on about you. All right, I'll go out. Yes, why not? I'll definitely go out. Wearing the sari that was brought me by my Parvaris. Yes, and I'll wear the ring that is a sign of our engagement. I took out a small velvet box. What a beautiful ring. My engagement ring. The first letter of Parvise's name had been beautifully chiseled on it. How the single green gem sparkled in the midst of the white ones. I looked at it with pride and put it on. Yes, I'll go out like this and I'll tell her how happy I am about my wedding. She must be thinking I'm ashamed of my behavior towards her, that I'll approach her wearing a sad expression, a sorry face, and that I'll relate my condition in pain tones. My suffering. Perhaps I'll cry. How I'll amaze her. On seeing my sari she'll exclaim, "What a beautiful sari." And I'll answer with pride, "Parvise brought it." And I'll talk about Parvise. Joyfully, I'll tell her how handsome Parvise is. I'll insist on her attending my wedding. I'll tell her how much I love Parvise. She'll burn up when she hears that. Won't she? Indeed she will. That time when I went home without taking leave she had inquired again and again, "Gulnar, you're not getting married, are you?" When I had denied it she hadn't believed me. "You're hiding it from me, Gulnar." That is why she didn't congratulate me on receiving the news of my engagement, and now seeing on my face not sorrow but this abundance of pleasure, happiness, and expectation, how she will burn up. Hun! If she burns up, she burns up. As if I care. In passing, I picked up Parvise's picture.